Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Ryan Bijan, host of Cowtown Movie Classics, and the month's theme, of course, is hagsploitation, this very wonderful, very specific subgenre of horror films, thrillers, melodramas, starring golden age Hollywood actresses, perhaps in the twilight of their career. And the subject of this week has been Joan Crawford. We just saw her in the beautiful pre-code film Rain from 1932 at the height of her youth and beauty. We have Joan Crawford, who in the later years of her career ended up finding herself cast in several of these so-called hagsploitation films, from the success of Whatever Happened to Baby Jane and eventually her final film Trog. So she was no stranger to the genre, but it's almost a point of irony that this legendary Hollywood actress herself would become the subject of this type of hagsploitation film. So I don't think we could round out the series without showing from 1981 one of the great bad movies of all time, one of the great camp classics. It's Mommie Dearest. And I cannot think of a better person to talk about this film than tonight's guest, Mr. David Del Valle. How are you doing tonight, David?
Hey Ryan, I'm really excited because you showed Baby Jane, and if your audiences have not seen Mommy Dearest, it's okay. Mommy Dearest is a horror film. It's a biography that's completely fictitious. Most of the things in it didn't happen. Yes, we did have Academy Awards, they got that right. But aside from that, the majority of all of it is pure rubbish, but it's entertaining. But the person that it really destroyed was Faye Dunaway. Joan Crawford's career was given a kind of torpedo with this. But while you're watching it, just remember one thing. It's a very entertaining, very watchable movie if you don't take it seriously. And when you adopt a child and that child is raised in wealth and privilege, and the problem with Christina Crawford is she wanted to be an actress and a star like her mother. So the green-eyed monster jealousy is what it's all about. And Christina wrote a book for money. Ironically, she suffered a nearly fatal stroke after she was achieving some recognition with this. But it's not a great movie. Frank Perry, a tremendous director, movies like Play It As It Lays, Man on a Swing, which is Joel Gray's best movie, Diary of a Mad Housewife, David and Lisa Last Summer. If you look at these movies and then you look at Mommy Dearest and then you look at the movie he made after this, which was not very good, called Monseigneur with Christopher Reeve at the height of his beauty. And once again, you're only as good as your script, you know. And if your script is utterly fictitious, then, but it's entertaining. Just please watch Mommy Dearest. And remember, Joan Crawford was a great star and did not deserve this. That's my comment on it.
Right, David. Well, thank you so much. If you're in the audience, please stick around after the film so you can hear the rest of our conversation from 1981, Mommie Dearest. That movie is completely batshit insane.
It really is. I love the part where she won't eat her food. So that rotting meat, you know, it's like the rotting meat in Polanski's Repulsion, because this is a horror movie, isn't it? I mean,
Yeah.
it may have a few moments of, I don't know, whatever. I wanted to say sex, but even sex is kind of like, you know, the Iron Maiden in this. You know, she gets that shower scene where she gets in with Dana Andrews' brother, Steve Forrest. I have a friend, Ashley Hoff, that wrote a book on the Match Game, and he wrote a book about Breakfast at Tiffany's, big queen.
Yeah.
And he got commissioned by somebody to write a book about the making of Mommy Dearest.
Wow.
And I just flipped out. I said, you know, this movie does not need any more attention. Let's just forget about it. And I said, you're just going to interview a bunch of surviving actors that don't have anything interesting to say. You're not the guy to write about the fallout of Mommy. See, that's the book I would write. It's how it destroyed two. See, when you call a movie a train wreck, usually it's just hyperbole, but this is a train wreck. You have Joan Crawford as one train, Faye Dunaway as another train, and they fucking run into each other and blow up because it's two conflicting horror stories that just happen to be related to each other. Faye knew Joan. Joan wanted to see Faye play her. That's legend. But the fact that the movie was as bad as it was, and that Faye Dunaway's evil twin kind of took over, because all the things that are described in it about Joan is Faye's behavior. Faye's sadistic with people. Faye slaps people in the face. Faye can't keep a man. Faye chases other women's men. You know, she's all of the above. So why would she want to play? Well, you want to work for Frank Perry. The only reality in that movie is the scene where the little Christina is closing the door after Joan wins the Oscar for Mildred Pierce, and the camera goes up to the little girl, and you see a different person coming to life there. If Hitchcock had directed this, or Polanski, it would all of a sudden, there'd be not, or Argento, you know, but the little girl gets that glimmer of glamour, and that's the end of it. Then the only thing between her and the glamorous, wonderful life is getting rid of her mother.
Yeah.
And she did that in the worst. But Betty Davis's daughter did the same thing. Because Joan and Betty drank. Joan and Betty slept around. And they were like men. They were like gay men living at a time when you could be disguised as a woman and run around and do all this shit. I don't know, because Betty Davis and Joan Crawford kind of became drag queens, which is why drag queens love them so much. And at this point, I want to say, if you want to hear my full kind of feelings on hagsploitation, my good friends Peaches Christ and Michael Varadi, God, I can't pronounce anyone's name today, have a podcast called Midnight Mass. And it's a popular podcast, and I did a whole hour and 20 minutes or so on hagsploitation. I've covered the waterfront with it, but you know, Betty Davis's career, they both began and ended, except Joan was a star before Betty. But Betty's career ended with Wicked Stepmother, which was worse than Mommie Dearest. Betty looking awful after having a stroke and having false teeth. She couldn't finish the movie because her teeth wouldn't stay in her head to say the lines. You know, so but Betty Davis herself, when the book came out, and Betty lived longer than Joan, Betty said, "It's common knowledge we were not friends, but I detest this book. Miss Crawford was a star. She was a talent. She was awesome. I just didn't happen to get on with her." And Betty didn't realize that she would have the same problem with that bitch of a daughter she had. And you can see her daughter in Baby Jane.
Yes.
She is Annalee's daughter in that. And she's a spoiled little bitch in that one too.
Yeah.
Both those daughters that's what happens when people with money, you know, spoil, especially some of this, an orphan, my God. But, you know, karma is a bitch, and Christina paid for it. She had a stroke. No one believes her anymore. But I do think, as a gay man, I was rather appalled that at the Castro Theater years ago, Christina Crawford, you know, regaled an entire audience, nearly 900 gay men, with her wire hanger bullshit and all that. And I'm kind of ashamed of that. But, you know, I mean, you can't blame a gay audience for not getting off on camp and over the top stuff. And gay men always responded to women that have a rough time of it. That's why Judy Garland is such an icon, the man that got away. For years, gay men were depicted as this very lonely person that longs after someone they can't have. And they're sitting around in bars listening to torch songs and drinking martinis. That was Joan Crawford's character in Humoresque, by the way. But but that stereotype did kind of, and Joan ate it up in an unconscious way, because I don't think Crawford and Davis ever really decided to become gay icons. I know Judy Garland probably didn't, even though her father was gay, and everybody in the family, both Liza and Judy couldn't marry straight guys, you know, Peter Allen and Mickey Dean. Anyway, opportunistic homosexuals, as they were called in the day. So I don't know. Hollywood reflects its own. There is aspects of Mommie Dearest that's probably very much I mean, if you really want to take it and grab some history out of it, Howard Da Silva's performance as mayor is kind of interesting. Louis didn't cry. I guarantee you Louis B. Mayer didn't cry over his actors. I'm sure of it. I don't know. We don't really know. We get vivid pictures of what he was like, what the moguls were like. But that whole thing, Hollywood royalty, you know, she didn't go into mayor's office with her stuff in a paper box and say, I'm going out to my car. Would you? No, no, no. And most people, but I mean, it is funny. I mean, if you look at it as a satire, it works. If you look at it as a horror movie, it works. The only time, and the reason we're having kind of a negative discussion about it is because it really kind of made people not take Joan Crawford seriously. And you just showed Rain last week, which shows her ability as an actress.
Right.
So she doesn't deserve, I don't think she deserves this movie as much as we enjoy it.
Of course.
Does that make sense? I mean, I'm not put,
It
I don't
does.
want to ruin anyone's, you know, I've watched this movie millions of times, you know, and I'm a big fan of it as a camp.
Well, okay, yes, I want to talk to you about that. So, by definition, right? I mean, I feel like the term camp, kitschy, it's been sort of conflated, and people say, oh, well, the Adam West Batman TV show, it's camp, it's silly. But to me, camp, by definition, doesn't it have to be unintentionally funny? It's something that takes
Yeah,
itself
Susan
seriously.
Sontag. Susan
Right.
Sontag is the one that created the definition of camp.
Well,
And it kind of the perimeters of it is satire, black comedy, and over the topness. For example, it's camp if Noel Coward performs a cabaret
mhm.
because he's in on the joke,
Okay.
and but he knows he's being over the top, and
Well,
he relishes being over the top. Rod Steiger in anything is camp.
yeah. What was the obviously this was a major studio film from Paramount. You had an A-list director. You have Faye Dunaway, who was a major star in her day. When they were setting out to make Mommy Dearest, were they like was it Faye Dunaway's intention in her mind? Was she making an Oscar bait biopic? Like were they trying to make a serious film?
Always,
Yeah.
always. Bradley Cooper does not act. He longs for an Oscar.
Hmm.
So he's not acting. Maestro is a master class on someone being so self-indulgent that they constantly want your attention, but they don't give you any depth. And I resent any intelligent person in the academy or anything looking at that performance and giving it the praise they're giving it.
Hmm.
And he's just not that good. Sorry.
Yeah.
And I hope he does. I don't think he'll win. He'll probably get nominated because he's knocked himself out to do that.
Yeah.
But Bernstein would not approve.
Right.
Uh, but in any case, and actually, Maestro is camp of the worst possible order. Babylon is camp of the worst possible order. Blonde. Now, let's take an example of the biopics of right now. Elvis. Elvis is total camp. Austin Butler is amazing, but outside of his performance, the surrounding material is pure camp. Tom Hanks is ridiculous in it. Blonde about Marilyn Monroe. She didn't just suffer, and then die.
Hmm.
And that's the same thing with Judy Garland. Judy Garland had a very joyous life in many cases. She had her demons, but she had an incredible life. Can you imagine being adored and worshipped, and you walk out on the Carnegie Hall, and you're loud, you're hailed as the greatest entertainer in the world, greater than Jolson, greater than anybody. There's never been anybody like her. Rufus Wainwright tried to recreate her entire. She's a mythic character. So is Crawford, and Dunaway just became an insane woman. She's insane. No one will work with her. And
So
Robert De Niro is getting the same way.
So do you think is it time? Is it time for the Faye Dunaway biopic where someone
Yeah,
gets the Academy Award for
and
playing
I
one?
want to see Bradley Cooper play Peter Wolf,
Yeah.
so that when Faye Dunaway puts a strap on, he's the recipient of it.
Oh, God.
Yeah, no, but I'm just saying. Lon Chaney was given a biopic by a studio called Man of a Thousand Faces. Not one bit of it was real.
But it's a good movie.
I
It's a
don't
good
want to. It's
Hollywood
a
film.
good, but all right. Man of a Thousand. That would be a good double bill,
Yeah.
Brian. Man of a Thousand Faces and Mommy Dearest to fabricate, or Valentino, either version, the Ken Russell or the one with Anthony Dexter.
Yeah.
Valentino deserves a biopic by all means. So does Ramon Navarro.
Hmm.
but not just about being bludgeoned to death by gay hustlers.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, there are great stories here about. That's why Babylon was so offensive to me. For them to take enough money to feed everybody for 2 years to make a shitty movie, misrepresenting the silent era completely.
Hmm.
Just, I don't know. I mean, I just feel with the way, not to get, I hate to see money wasted, Ryan,
Yeah.
especially in the world we're in today, because I have to walk over people going to get to Starbucks to buy a drink, people that
Hmm.
are sleeping on the street. And you tell me some idiot gets $400 million to make an unwatchable movie.
Yeah.
That's why it's an evil. It's evil. It's just evil. But I just want people to wake up and don't be afraid to dislike something.
Hmm.
I like Mommy Dearest as an entertainment, but I will go down fighting about the fact that it misrepresented a great star.
No, I agree. But so let's talk a little bit about Frank Perry, the director. Where was he
Yes.
at this point in his career? Because I understand he had some personal demons he was dealing with when he made the
I
film.
don't know that much about Frank to give an educated opinion, but I will tell you based on the movies I named at our introduction, Play It As It Lays is one of my favorites. And Man on a Swing, when I interviewed Joel Grey, he had nothing but great. The thing about Frank and Diary of a Mad Housewife last summer with that whole rape thing,
Hmm.
that was a very profound movie for kids. It was like a separate piece. You read a separate piece, then you go see Last Summer, and that brought Bruce Davidson out into the public eye.
Hmm.
So, but I don't know what were his personal demons. I don't really know, but I know when his wife died, when Eleanor Perry died, his movies were not as good because Monsignor doesn't even look like a movie directed by Frank Perry. And if you look at his filmography after that, it's all downhill. And if you look at Faye Dunaway, who had great hits, after Mommy Dearest, her career tanked. You cannot find one good movie in her filmography after this. Not one. And I have a director friend who did a TV movie with her who said just getting her to answer a phone was impossible.
Oh
She'd
wow.
have on an earring, she'd take it off. And I don't like that. Let me do it again. She's costing people money.
So the
See, when
film,
you start costing money, they're not going to hire you.
right? So like to add to your point, the film "Mommy Dearest" is more autobiographical about the star. Faye Dunaway
Yes.
than it
You know
is.
what it is? It's a great parallel in Crawford filmography to Harriet Craig. Joan Crawford made a movie that Vincent Sherman, who always cheated on his wife, Vincent Sherman made a movie with her called Harriet Craig, based on a famous Broadway play about a controlling woman. Wow, it's typecasting, right? I
Yeah.
mean, Joan keeps an immaculate house. She doesn't have all the plastic on the sofa chairs, but in any case, so everyone's going, Joan, don't you feel like you're a little like Harriet Craig? No, no, no. I'm playing a character there. Well, after Mommy Dearest, people drag out Harriet Craig like they do some of Rock Hudson's movies to show where in the movie he was gay. They even do it because they did Rock Hudson's Home Movies is about gay men trying to figure out the gay moments in the straight washing of Rock Hudson's career. And with Faye Dunaway and Joan Crawford made movies that paralleled her life. Torch Song, her bedroom was recreated with the blackout curtains. In let's see, Harriet Craig, her cleanliness thing is brought to friend. Joan knows this, and so you have Torch Song, female on the beach. She's gonna have it on with this gigolo, this rent boy, but she has to humiliate him first. They all know what they're doing here, and the people that write these scripts know.
Yeah.
Like all these quasi-gay things they gave Vincent Price to say in the movies. Rob White and Richard Matheson knew he was gay, and so they wrote dialogue that was very open and camp. There is where a screenwriter uses Susan Sontag's definition of camp to create, like Nicholas Medina in Pit and the Pendulum,
Yeah.
is a totally gay performance. Because he only wants a wife if she's dead, and when she comes back to life, he puts her in an Iron Maiden. That is not a heterosexual thing to do.
Yeah.
Unless you're insane, which he was, of course.
Of
But
course.
no, this movie just brings out the crazy in me because I like it, but I feel guilty liking it. So maybe this is really the true definition of a guilty pleasure.
I
The
could agree with
greatest
you on
guilty
that.
pleasure I have is watching Mommy Dearest.
Right. And I'm sure we had a lot of fun tonight getting to experience it with an audience and to hear your thoughts on it. It was a lot of
Well,
fun.
I love that I still get texts from people saying, well, I might have known, where the boys and the booze are. I mean, there's so many quotable lines in this.
Yeah.
But Christina Crawford said that she never wrote in the book that her mother took an axe to a tree.
Mhm.
So now that wasn't in the book. Why was it in the movie? There's my curiosity question for the day.
Yeah.
Because that's a famous scene. Christina, bring me the axe.
Well, like you said, it's a horror film, right? You got to spice
It
it up.
really is. What it is. It's Faye Dunaway's version of Straight Jacket.
Mm-hmm. Which was it?
You know what? You
Yeah.
know what should have happened? This is hilarious. What should have happened is Faye Dunaway should have remade all of Joan Crawford's horror movies for Herman Cohen. Straight Jacket, Berserk, I Saw What You Did. Can you imagine Faye Dunaway and I Saw What You Did grabbing a teenage girl and saying, "Stay away from my man, you bitch."
Well,
No.
yeah. If Mommy Dearest was a hit, I'm sure they would have gone in that direction.
Would she have gone with it? If now there's a question. If Mommy Dearest had been a hit and Faye had gotten an Oscar nomination, that would have thoroughly destroyed Crawford in a way, because it would have legitimized and endorsed the movie. But the fact that it became the howling, you know what it became? It was like before Showgirls.
Right. Yeah.
Because that's 1981. And what year is Showgirls?
Like 94, 95, I think.
Yeah. So, and that, wouldn't you say Showgirls is camp?
Yeah, probably by that definition, sure. Yeah,
But I don't think that Showgirls represents the way women were on the strip in Las Vegas. Do you think there were a lot of nomies out there? Maybe.
Yeah.
I don't know what you're doing at the Cheetah, darling, but it ain't dancing. I love that movie too. Now, am I going to get in trouble for liking that one as well? But the good news is all of it. These movies are very popular. I mean, the gay community has made Mommy Dearest an iconic movie.
Mm-hmm.
But we did that to Xanadu as well.
Yeah.
And now there's a guilty pleasure that's total camp. Xanadu. Can't Stop the Music. Even Fame. What an unrealistic portrayal of a music academy. People dancing on top of taxi cabs.
Well, then, you had me thinking of a movie that you recently did the audio commentary for, Staying Alive.
Oh my God. And I did Staying Alive because I love that movie. It's a standalone movie. It does not require that you see Saturday Night Fever. And I love that. And because it was made around the same time as The Fan with Lauren Bacall and Cruising with William Friedkin and Streets of Fire, and Can't Stop the Music, it goes, and Eyes of Laura Mars, it goes in that, like when we did Cruising, it's that whole kind of Hollywood take on New York.
Mm-hmm.
The New York that never existed. The New York that Steve Guttenberg is skateboarding through singing, "New York, the city with gusto." It's happening. But, New York was happening and it was a great place, but no one ever depicts things in movies the way, well, it's like, if you want reality, take a snap, you take a selfie. If you want art, you've got to, and sometimes camp is instrumental in that. For example, John Waters' favorite movie is Elizabeth Taylor and Richard Burton in Boom, which is based on a Tennessee Williams play, The Milk Train Doesn't Stop Here Anymore. And when it was on Broadway, it was camp because Tallulah Bankhead was playing the Taylor role, and Tab Hunter, under the direction of Tony Richardson, whom he'd had an affair with, was playing the Richard Burton part, because Richard Burton, way too old to play the Angel of Death.
Well, it's funny you mentioned that, because actually the next film we're showing, the final film in our Haxploitation series, is we're going to see Tallulah Bankhead herself, larger than life in Hammer Films fanatic, also known as Die Die, My Darling.
Patricia, yeah, Patricia. That's such a great movie. That's such a great movie. And you've got to notice, which is when my friend Vito was doing the Celluloid Closet, he said, pay close attention to Tallulah's son's painting, because it's obvious her son was gay. You couldn't be Tallulah Bankhead's son and be anything else. But the fact that, he dies, and the whole point of Stephanie Powers' visit was to kind of let the mother know they were never going to get married because she found out her son was gay. but she never gets to tell Mrs. Trefoil that.
Mhm.
And then well, I don't want to spoil it, people haven't seen it, but it's a terrific movie. And
It's
if
a
you've
lot of
never,
fun.
and it's also one of the very first movies with Donald Sutherland
Yeah, yeah, that's
playing an idiot. I
yeah,
mean, a real idiot, like John Carradine did in Voodoo Man, you know. The same year John Carradine did Bluebeard, because I just did the commentary for that, he did Voodoo Man, where he played an idiot playing on bongos, kind of a moron. So you have to be a great actor to go from A to Z, you
well,
know.
it's a
But
rite
see,
of
that's
passage.
also camp. That's also camp. Bluebeard is camp.
Oh yeah, no, certainly, certainly. Well,
There's
David,
certain parts of Fort Worth that are camp.
I'm sure there are now. Yeah, Horace Hall is camp now. At least now it is. Well, David, thank you so much for your time. Do you have any closing thoughts? Is there anything else you wanted to add?
Well, you know, you've got me on the subject. Maybe what Cowtown should do next is a little series on bio movies, and then we can really explore the good and the bad and the ugly.
Yeah, Man of a Thousand Faces, the Jolson story. I'm trying to think like
The
what
two
else.
Jolson ones, because Larry Parks got
Yeah,
blacklisted, and he didn't come back until he did Freud for John Huston. But Jolson writes again in the Jolson story. Al Jolson mimicked. He did the voice, he did the singing, he dubbed the singing himself. But Larry Parks should have gotten an Oscar. It's a tremendous performance. You
yeah,
should do that, honestly, and I'm sure we can think of more, and not just horror movies, but all kinds of biopics.
right,
There aren't many biopics in horror, really.
right. Well, the wheels are turning. I guess Ed Wood is the one that comes to mind.
Ed Wood,
Yeah,
definitely. And
We have to do
there's
Ed
a
Wood.
misrepresentation of Lugosi.
Yeah,
All the drug stuff is not accurate.
it's not. Oh, I thought he did
No,
have
it's
an
not.
addiction.
Listen, I will
Yeah,
talk about that. That is a very, I saw that with the man, with the guy that did the makeup for Bride of the Monster, and he wept. He said, I did Mr. Lugosi's makeup. He did not have tracks on his arms.
yeah,
No, no. And why do that? And, you know, I'm amazed the Lugosi fan. Well, I think that Bela Jr. wanted to have that change, but I know the screenwriter. He's at everything, Larry Kowalski.
yeah.
You know, I've always wanted to be nice, you know, but why bother? Now I'm just going to come over and say, what the fuck were you thinking? You know, no, we'll see. But yeah, biopics. And then we can really get into a good discussion about why people change. I
Yeah.
think you do that with writing. When you're writing someone's biography, if they're dead, you can kind of go, well, maybe I'll change this. And once you do that, it's not the same.
That's true.
I mean,
Well,
if you're going to keep a secret about your life, then maybe you shouldn't write about it at all so people don't misinterpret it.
mhm. No, absolutely. Well, David, once again, honestly, thank you so much for your
Oh,
time.
I'm glad, because you know now I'm all mad again.
Uh-oh.
Now I just gotten over being mad about Mommy Dearest. Now I'm mad about it all over again. I'm going to call up Ashley and yell at him. But I'll be ready. You know, maybe we'll do a show later on when if his book ever comes out,
We'll
and
do
see
it.
what we're thinking. Because I've given him enough grief about not praising the movie. I
Mhm.
said, you know, there's a way to talk about this movie and enjoy it, like we just did,
Right.
without endorsing it and saying it's the truth. You
Yeah.
know, because I don't know. I mean, we're all guilty. I mean, we get a little of it on Facebook and Instagram every day, where somebody could make up something about you and then everyone believes it.
Yeah. I mean, that's especially now with social media, AI, there's so much artificiality out there. You don't know what's real and what's not.
I never knew in the first place. So now I'm really confused. You know,
Yeah.
who are we? What are we doing here?
Well, David, thank you so much for your time. If you're in the audience, I hope you enjoyed tonight's film for whatever reason, good or bad. Once again, my name is Ryan Bijan. We'll see you next time.